Alright, welcome back to your herd. I'm Russ, and we're here with Chris and Kevin Tolbert. And, well, Chris, what's your last name again?
McGaw.
McGaw.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
I'm a fourth-year senior here at Hiram. I'm an English major with a minor in philosophy, which basically directly translates to unemployable. So we're going to see what happens when I graduate.
So you really don't know what you want to do?
Not really. No.
So why'd you get into the English and philosophy field?
Well, when you take enough courses in a different, in a given major, eventually you just sort of get that major. Like around my junior year, my advisor was like, "Hey, you really need to declare." So I asked him what I had the most of, and he said English. So I said I'm an English major then. So
okay. So you don't have any other interests?
Yeah, I mean,
major interests, or
yeah, I mean, I've been studying martial arts since the 3rd grade, and I'm planning when I graduate to go to Japan and probably China for a couple of years after that, and train there. So
martial arts?
Yeah,
those countries, or
yeah, like the art I'm training in here is called Goshin Jiu-Jitsu. It's an open hand fighting art that derived from the samurai of Japan. So the concept of it's basically that you either don't have a sword or your sword broke, and you need to get one soon or you're going to die.
Right.
So eventually that got civilianized and made a lot nicer, but it primarily works with locking up joints, using your opponent's momentum against them, and throwing them on the ground so you can dispatch them.
Okay, why should people be interested in taking this style as opposed to taking something else like boxing or wrestling?
Like jiu-jitsu has a really strong martial component to it, where like a lot of martial arts that you can train in are really good for fitness, and they, some of them are good for sparring. I mean, if you watch like UFC or something like that, you know that sparring isn't necessarily indicative of fighting. I mean, like, it's a great way to get fit. It's a great way to gain confidence in yourself. You can learn self-discipline. I mean, there's a lot of very good reasons besides the physical ones. But beyond that, like, it's an incredibly rewarding practice. Like, it actually builds you up in terms of character, mental fortitude, and strength, and actual physical ability.
Right. So how's it different from like Taekwondo?
Taekwondo has, as a Korean art, is primarily engaged in striking, like punching and kicking. Jiu-jitsu doesn't, like, you punch a man in the mouth, like right on the jaw, he's gonna probably get pissed off at you. If you don't knock him down or out, he's gonna come at you again. Jiu-jitsu is specifically designed so that you resolve the conflict as fast as possible. So, like, instead of punching at somebody, we will punch them to distract them so we can get a hold of a limb and break it. If someone has a broken wrist, elbow, shoulder, if you break their neck, obviously, they're not going to be fighting with you anymore.
Right.
So your goal in jiu-jitsu is to incapacitate your opponent in the most efficient and expedient way possible.
So what got you interested in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I started training in the 3rd grade in Taekwondo, and did that for a couple of years. And after a while, you just, like, I started figuring out by myself that everything that I do turns back towards some kind of martial pursuit. Like, I read military science, like actual literature, like, Sun Tzu and Clausewitz and other things on the topic of, like, generalship and leadership and such. I'm really interested in, military history and actual history. And, I'm having my most amount of fun, and I feel the best when I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I need that edge. I need it to keep me happy and kind of sane. Otherwise, I go a little crazy.
Sane?
Yeah.
So you stay dangerous to be sane?
Yeah, it's kind of like hiding in plain sight. If you get really close to violence and the things that are most destructive and disgusting of the human animal, you can actually understand the rest of what it is to be, alive and real. Does that make any sense?
So what you're telling me is you're just a little killer out in these streets?
No. I've not been in a knockdown drag-out fight, which may or may not be.
So you haven't been in a fight, or you haven't been in a fight where you've been knocked down?
I've not been in a fight where it was like where everybody involved knew exactly what was going on, that someone was going to get the crap kicked out of them at the end of the day. I've been in a couple of altercations, you could say, but
physical or verbal?
Some have been nearly physical. Some have been kind of. I mean, this is really personal. So,
okay.
I'll avoid answering that directly. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Is it okay to ask, like, what was your worst physical altercation you've been in?
Yeah, that's a bit much. I mean, I'll go to what I've done in training. I've done some.
Well, you don't have to go in details.
Yeah,
just...
I've done some full contact training with people who do like shoot fighting and UFC style fighting. So I've been punched in the mouth and knocked out by it. I mean, I've been hit hard. But as far as my personal life, I'll leave that as my personal life. So.
Okay. All right, and Kevin Tobert.
Oh, how you doing?
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name's Kevin Tobert. I'm a sophomore. My major is management. I run track. I'm involved in ASSU. I'm a treasurer, and I used to wrestle in high school and play football. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you like wrestling? Like,
Wrestling. I love wrestling.
you love it. What made you get into it?
Wow. My older brother, my younger brother, we all wrestled at the same time. We went to a lot of camps, and it started off like just like a joke, going with friends. But then, as I started getting better and started winning a lot of awards, I started loving it a lot more. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have had like first place awards.
Oh yeah.
Oh really? What high school did you go to?
Shaker Heights High School.
Okay, and do they have some type of rank that you have to, or a certain weight class that you have to be in?
Oh yeah. Like it's always weight classes or whatnot. And so generally, you try to get in a weight class you feel you'd be like most strongest at, so you can perform the best. And generally, sometimes that means like you got to cut down a few pounds. Well, that's the case most of the time though. So you wrestle somebody a little bit smaller than you, so you can like get upper hand on them.
I'll say they have you bullying some people.
Man, you can say that. Yeah.
So, what is the theory behind wrestling?
Basically, you want to get in and off the mat as quickly as possible. And one of the fastest ways of doing that is pinning your opponent to the back, having both their shoulder blades touch the mat at the same time for 5 seconds, sometimes 3, depending on the referee. If you can't do it that way, you can either tech fall your opponent. That means you score, like some of you score over 15 points in a match, so they won't be like that embarrassed. Or you can have a match like drag on out until like for 6 minutes in high school, 2 minutes per period, and it's 3 periods.
Okay, so how is it different from what Chris does?
Well, wrestling, you generally try to get people to their back, and people try to stay up their back. And in jiu-jitsu, you want to stay on your back so you can fight back to your opponent.
Yeah, like
Is that true?
kind of. When you're ground fighting in jiu-jitsu, being on your back isn't a disadvantage. Like a great deal of our curriculum is based from your back. I mean, if I'm on my back, I've got both my fists, my feet. I can bite, I can headbutt, I can do a lot of things. If I'm on my stomach, I can't do those things. You can get my neck. It's very dangerous. But jiu-jitsu as a whole, while we do have a lot of curriculum for ground fighting, we do try to stay on our feet. Because if you go into a bar, into a back alley, or on a battlefield, the people who are on the ground are dead. They're either getting stomped on or they're dying. That's just not a safe place to be if you really want to fight.
Okay.
But that said, I mean, most fights end up on the ground. So.
Okay. So, Mr. Tobert, is it safe to ask, have you ever been into any physical altercations in the past?
Like on a wrestling mat?
Outside of it, to where you had to use your skills.
To use wrestling? I play with my brothers a lot. Like we play around. Like we always used to just goof around and stuff. Nothing real serious.
Okay. Well, how long have you been wrestling?
I've been wrestling since the 7th grade.
7th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, well, later on we'll be talking about the differences between these two styles, and we'll get back with you guys in a bit.